important and interesting things happened in the year of 1957. Sputnik 1, the first spaceship, was launched. Elvis Presley bought a mansion and called it Graceland. And the BBC did a hoax where they told viewers that you could grow spaghetti on trees. There was, however, another important event. An important event in the car world, because Fiat, on the 4th of July 1957, built the first ever Fiat 500 in their factory in Turin.
Eccola, la Fiat 500. È proprio la piccola grande vettura. Interessante sotto qualsiasi punto di vista.
Over the course of 18 years, Fiat built 4 million Fiat 500s. 4 million. That would be impressive today, but in 1957, that's incredible. What made it so popular? Well, it wasn't speed, because the original Fiat 500 had a 479cc engine and weighed, granted 479 kilos, so it was very light, but the engine produced just 13 horsepower. So it definitely wasn't speed. The reason it was so popular is because it was stylish. Think about it. It's an icon. It's a slow icon, and you wouldn't want to have a crash in one because your knees are the crumple zone, but an icon nonetheless. In fact, they're so iconic that it's estimated there are more than 400,000 original Fiat 500s still on the road just in Italy. Just in Italy. Now, 50 years after the original 500, Fiat brought back the 500 name with the new 500 in 2007, and it was still small, stylish and relatively affordable. And since then it's had its midlife facelift, and we've had the 500C, we've had the Abarth 500, but overall the 500 is still very cool. It's just cool. There's a reason why so many people are still buying them. And now it's 60 years since that first 500, and even 10 years since the new 500 came out. As you may have already spotted, I'm in a Fiat 500, specifically the 500C, which means that this is the cabriolet with the folding fabric roof. This particular car has an 875cc 2-cylinder turbocharged engine. 2 cylinders, it's not even a litre, it's not even 900cc, 875cc. Now, despite the fact that this engine is so small, this is actually the most powerful standard 500 you can buy. If you want anything more powerful than this than 500, you go to the Abarth. It's got 105 horsepower, 106 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 62 miles an hour takes exactly 10 seconds, and the top speed is 170 miles an hour. It takes a while for the boost to build, probably up until about 3,000 RPM, and then between 3,000 and 5,000, that's when you've got the power. You really need to be in that range, because before then, it really does struggle. Until that turbocharger wakes up, it really does struggle. So if you're in traffic, for example, in most cars, you can kind of roll around in second gear and pull away in second. In this, unless you were to really ride the clutch, and I mean really try and kill it, you can't do it. You've got to go down to first gear. For the most part, when you're cruising around though, it's quite quiet, but it doesn't make a particularly nice noise. It's just a noise. But when you actually start to put your foot down, then I think it sounds slightly different. I think it sounds pretty good. For a 2-cylinder engine, it just sounds like a B. 3 cylinders can sound quite cool, but it's actually quite fun when you start to get on it. And you can hear tiny little pops from the exhaust, and you can hear the turbocharger wake up and things. It does make some interesting noises, this car. It's not a V12, but it is quite cool. Okay, so I've dropped my speed down to 25 miles an hour to give you the sound of this engine. Okay, so foot down, have a listen. That is a cool sounding engine. I don't care what you drive, that is a cool sounding engine. How does the rest of it drive? Well, I will start with the steering first of all, and there's a button on the dashboard that says Sport. I am very happy this car has that button. Not only does it change the throttle response and actually make it that little bit more responsive, but the main thing it does is give more weight to the steering, because without that Sport button engaged, the steering is too light for my liking. Even when you're going in a straight line at 60 miles an hour at higher speeds, when the steering would normally weight up some more, it feels far too light. So press that button and it sorts it out. Steering isn't particularly communicative. You don't know what the front tyres are doing, but it's direct. So when you turn the wheel, you get a response. What I like about the way it drives is the fact that it hasn't got loads of grip, and that's kind of entertaining. Everything it does is very easy, very simple, very approachable. So if you start to go too quick into a corner, you can feel it start to understeer and the tyres start to squeal, but it's not scary. It doesn't suddenly break away and you're just understeering towards a ditch. It's just good fun. Low grip in a small car can be quite entertaining. And now we come to something that I'm afraid I haven't been able to make the most of in the last week because it's been raining, and that is the roof. And I really like this roof. I like this design. I like the fact that you can fold it halfway back or you can fold it all the way back, although that does compromise rear visibility. And normally I wouldn't talk about rear visibility, but when you can't see everything that's behind you, when you can't really see the cars that are getting a bit too close, then that's an issue. But it's just a cool roof. Not only is it a stylish roof and looks cool when it's folding back, insert gratuitous roof footage here, but you've got the structure of the frame of the car as well. You're not losing any structural rigidity by having this fabric section because you've still got the metal here. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Do you like the look of this car? Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I suspect your answer will be yes. What Fiat have done that is very, very clever is they've designed the 500 so that it is a familiar shape and doesn't look a million miles away from the original, even though they are very different cars designed for completely different times, markets, engines, technology, safety regulations, all of that stuff. But it's familiar. It looks like they're from the same family, and that's very clever considering this is 60 years newer than the original. And inside as well, although some of the materials aren't great, and for example the indicator stalks are pretty flimsy and sometimes they work like you would imagine an indicator to work, but other times they kind of half come on, half come off, and they just feel a bit naff, if I'm honest. A few times I've flashed people by accident because I've just been trying to do the indicator. But it's a very cool interior. It's quirky, and again that's another reason why people buy them. It's just because they're interesting. You're willing to pay the premium because there's something interesting and charming about this car. The Fiat 500 isn't perfect. It isn't. I'm sorry to burst your bubble if you think it is, but it isn't. But it is an icon. Now let's all just imagine what the Fiat 500 of 60 years' time will look like.